In this problem, we want to simplify the quantity of 2x squared y to the negative third z all to the negative second divided by the quantity of 2 squared x to the negative first y z to the negative fifth all to the third power. The first thing that we should start off with here is getting rid of these outermost exponents in the numerator and denominator. So because we're multiplying inside of these parentheses, because there's no addition or subtraction, we can distribute these exponents to every term that's being multiplied. So this negative 2 will be distributed to the exponent of the 2, the exponent of the x, of the y, and of the z. And when we distribute it to each exponent, we're multiplying it to each exponent. So in this case, 2 is really 2 to the first power. So when we distribute that negative 2, meaning we multiply it to that first power, we will get 2 to the 1 times negative 2 is negative 2 power. And again, we're going to distribute it to this square. So 2 times negative 2 will give us x to the negative fourth power. And again, negative 3 times negative 2 gives us positive 6. So we have y to the positive 6 power. And finally, z is really z to the first. So when we multiply that negative 2 to our exponent of 1, we get z to the negative second. And that's all over this denominator, which is going to be the exact same process. We will distribute the 3 to each of these exponents. So we get 2 to the 2 times 3 is 2 to the 6th power. And then x to the negative 1 times 3 is x to the negative third. This y is really y to the first power. So y to the 1 times 3 is y to the third. And finally, z to the negative 5 times 3 is z to the negative 15th power. And now from here, we want to combine all of these terms. Remember that whenever you are dividing the same base, so in this case 2 and 2 has the same base, we're dividing them. X and x are the same base and we're dividing them, and so on. You just subtract your exponents. So let's start off with the first one. 2 to the negative second divided by 2 to the sixth is just 2 to the negative 2 minus the exponent in the denominator is minus 6. And again, we have x as our next term, and we always take the numerator's exponent and subtract the denominators. So we have negative 4 minus negative 3, so we're going to put that in parentheses. Now we have y. The top exponent, or the numerator's exponent, was 6. The denominator's was 3, so we have 6 minus 3. And finally, we have z to the negative 2 minus the denominator's exponent was negative 15. This eliminates our fraction. So now we can just start simplifying. 2 to the negative 2 minus 6 gives us 2 to the negative 8. Up here, negative 4 minus negative 3, well, that minus negative 3 is the same thing as plus positive 3. Remember, whenever you're subtracting a negative, it's the same thing as adding a positive. So we get x to the negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. From there, we have y to the 6 minus 3 is just y to the third. And again, we have negative 2 minus negative 15 is the same thing as negative 2 plus positive 15, which gives us z to the positive 13. And now at this point, we never want to leave negative exponents in our final answer. That isn't simplified. So we have to change these two exponents on the 2 and the x to positive exponents. And in order to do that, always remember a negative exponent just means you take your value and put it in the opposite part of your fraction. So if your negative exponent is in the numerator, which in this case, because there is no fraction, it's the same thing as putting this entire thing over 1. So 2 to the negative 8 is in the numerator. So to make that negative 8 positive 8, we have to move this 2 to the denominator. Let me show that off to the side just to avoid any confusion. If you had something like 2 to the negative third over x, in order to get this negative 3 to be positive, you have to move that 2 to the denominator, leaving you with 1 over 2 to the positive third times x. And likewise, if you had x over 2 to the negative third, in order to make this negative 3 positive, you have to move your 2 to the numerator, giving you 2 to the third times x. So whenever you have a negative exponent, you're just going to move the base to the other part of your fraction. So in this case, we're going to be moving this 2 and this x to the denominator because they both have negative exponents. But we're going to leave the y and the z alone because they each have positive exponents. They don't need to be moved. So this is going to give us y to the third, z to the 13th, all over 2 to the positive 8 now, and x to the positive 1. And anything to the first power is just itself, so we don't write that exponent. And this is the simplified form of our original problem. Note that we do not need to multiply out this 2 to the 8th power, as that would be an outrageously large number to multiply out.